So this is part 2 of a video looking at the Korg Collection 4. In the previous video I looked at the Wave State, the microKorg, Odyssey, Electride, Poly6 and M1, and in this video I'm going to look at the Monopoly, MS20, Triton, Kaoss Pad, microKorg and Prophecy. So if you want to look at those other ones, check out part 1. This is part 2, so let's get straight to part 2. So this is the Monopoly, launched in 1981, 4 oscillator synth. They call it poly because it's got 4 oscillators, but there's a single filter, so it's paraphonic, so it's really mono synth. But it's got some nice quirks because of that, and it's got some nice cross modulation effects on it. So we've got 4 oscillators here, and if I put this in original mode, that's using oscillator 1. Hold down the second key, it uses oscillator 2, 3 and 4. So what that means is that you could actually change the way. So that, let me get a nice clean sound and I can show you a bit better. So hold down four notes, you can see it's using 4 oscillators, 1, 2, 3, 4. But what it means you can do is you could say, okay, oscillator 1 is using a sawtooth, and oscillator 2 is going to be using PWM, oscillator 3 is a triangle, and oscillator 4 is going to be using a sawtooth, but I'm going to drop that right down. So you can't get it to play oscillator 2 without holding oscillator 1 because that's going through it. So it's quite an interesting effect, but when you play chords you get the nice combinations. So I could go with 2 all sawtooths, but I can detune them a bit. So I could detune them a bit to get a fatter sound. So what if you put it into poly mode? It plays them all at the same time. Let's put this back to there. So when you put it into poly mode, you get a nice effect from the detune, so the chorus on it. If you go back into the original mode, so it sounds a bit weird, but put it into poly mode so they're all synced up and playing, you get that nice effect from it. And then by changing the waveforms, you can add some real interest to it, because it's that single filter as well. Let's have a quick listen to the filter. Just like the others, we can do the MIDI learn. So I'll use a mod wave to control to learn that. So we've got 2 envelopes on here. We've got one for the filter, the VCF, and one for the VCA as well. There's some cross modulation options on here. Some interesting effects on there. Let's turn that off. So you can hit, there you go, you can see some chorus and reverb on there as well. And there's an arpeggiator. And you can do some virtual patching as well. You couldn't do that on the original one, so here I could assign the wheel there to VCO pitch. But you could also assign velocity to, let's go with the LF, no, let's go with the filter. So there you can hear the resonance being controlled by velocity, so you can do these patching as well. There's also some other modes in there as well. You've got a unison mode and a chord mode as well. And then you can also put it into unison mode and do some detuning and some spread on there. Let's have a listen to a couple more of the presets. Some nice classic brass sounds on there. So the Mono Poly, nice, interesting synth, slightly different from the Poly 6 with the sort of the quirks of this, the way the oscillator works, but good fun to play with and well worth checking out. So the next one to look at is the MS-20. So this is 1970s semi-modular synth, interesting synth, really good effects out of this. Some nice presets on here as well. And it's got an interesting way of processing this one. The MS-20 is, you've got dual oscillators, you've got filters, got a high pass and low pass filter, and then you've got this modular section where you can take patch and make it to sort of semi-modular, and the presets use this concept as well. It's one I've never owned, would like to, and I'd like to learn a bit more about this patching. But for example, on this one you can see the signal in out of the white noise is going to this signal in of there, and you see some patches take, say, the main audio out and feed it back into itself to give some effects and so on. Many of the presets are polyphonic, even though the original synth was mono, but you've got control over that as well. You've got these poly and mono modes, and it's a really interesting synth. It's capable of some really good bass sounds. So like for example this one, you can see you've got oscillator 2 is doing sawtooth, the noise is coming from oscillator 1. You've got oscillator mixer, you can use the MG, which is LFO, and modulate those. We've got some cross modulation as well. Hear that? We've got high pass and low pass with envelopes for them, and then I could take, say, the signal out to the audio in. So you can start patching these up and get these really interesting sounds out of it. Notice at the bottom here you've got those two effects channels. These are the MDX effects which I mentioned before. So good lead sounds out of it. Sounds like this. Sounds like that, which I think the MS-20 is famous for. And then you've got big poly sounds like that, which of course the original one couldn't do, but this one can. And you got some interesting sounds like that. There's loads of presets, very versatile, and you've got all these other modulation options as well. Definitely recommend you check out that one. I'm going to spend some time with this, and maybe I'll do a separate video on the MS-20 itself. You can buy these. Korg recreated these, and you can buy them. And I think there's a Behringer version, and then there's this version as well. So the next one is the Triton. This is Korg's flagship workstation, originally launched in 1999, made up to 2010. This is the main Triton version. There is a Triton Extreme in the collection, which is almost the same, a few extra features, and includes a valve emulation, like the Triton had an actual valve in there. But I would stick with this one for now. There's loads of sounds in this one. So this was a workstation with sampling, sequencing, effects, drums, and rumpler. This one just is the sounds and the effects, the drum kits, but no sequencer or sampling on here. There's two modes to it. There's combi mode, where you can have 8 programs loaded, or program mode. We'll just have a quick look at combi mode first, just to give you an idea of some of the sounds that are in there. There's hundreds of presets in here, plus all the cards that Korg released as well. We should come back to those in a second. We'll have a quick listen to some. We can go by category. So lots of 90s romper style, well, maybe 2000s romper. Bread and butter sounds in here, as well as lots of interesting splits, as you can see from here. If we go into program mode, we can actually look at how the sounds are made up, but you get something like the acoustic guitar, which has got an arpeggiator on it. If we go to easy mode, we can control that, so I'll just turn that off for now. You can hear not bad acoustic guitar sound. So each sound, each program is made up of 2 oscillators with 2 waveforms on each oscillator you can use for high and low and velocity switching, that kind of thing. We've got pitch envelopes, we've got filter envelopes with a bit more control over the standard ADSR, not resonant filters, and we've got LFOs and 5 insert effects and 2 master effects as well, so it's pretty rich on the effects side. And then we've got an arpeggiator, and there's lots of different arpeggiators effects to choose from. So we can hear the guitar strum on this one. So that's where a lot of the arpeggiators come from. Instead, I've got a Korg Karma, which is exactly the same synth engine without the arpeggiators, but with the Korg Karma. I've got a video about Karma on our YouTube channel. So the sounds are samples, there's drum kit, as well as bread and butter piano type sounds. And then of course you've got like layered sounds as well. As well as synth sounds. All the usual things you'd expect there. The sounds are pretty useful. I still use my Karma every now and again for strings and a couple of the short sounds I'll show you in a minute. So I find it pretty handy for that. If we go to the cards, you'll see you've got vintage archives, which has got some really nice samples in it, and a synth we tried out of it earlier on in the video, the Korg 700. You've got synth strings, one I like is this vocoder type sound, and I think in here we've got a Mellotron flute, and I think there is a Mellotron strings are in here somewhere. Oh, Mellotron choir. favourites, that one, and the regular synth strings. So quite useful sounds in there. Some sound quite dated, some of the factory, some quite nice pads in there that are taken from other synths from Korg range. It reminds me of some 80s track, I can't remember what, but some are a bit dated, some of the samples. But overall, it's a really nice synth, pretty straightforward to program. You've not got a lot of flexibility on program, it's not like an analog synth, but it's easy to use, syncs up with everything. You've got some controls, some sort of quick action controls on here as well, and there's sort of a page for easy access to some of the parameters. Put it in combi mode and you've got some interesting pre-set up effects. Like this one. Yeah, some nice stuff on it like that. So again, it's very much of its time, but there are some useful things on there. And if you want just, you know, bread and butter type stuff, that's what it's for. So that's the Triton. Let's look at something else. So next one we're going to look at is the Korg Prophecy. The Prophecy is a 1995 physical modelling synth, and physical modelling was the idea that rather than using samples which are kind of static, with physical modelling you model the real world, how the sounds are created in the real world to give you that control over them. So interesting design and philosophy behind it. So you've got some interesting sort of sounds built into it, like this one here, which sounds very much like an analog synth, and that's because it's modelling analog synth. If I go for something different, it doesn't sound particularly that trumpet-like, but I suppose for the time it does, because it's actually modelling how the horn section is and the mouthpiece. So that's a French horn. So here you can see you've got two oscillators. In this case it's a brass model, there's a reed model, a pluck model, variable phase, FM, combi filter and standard. So that's the brass one. If I pick a wind instrument, so I pick here a reed instrument. You can see it's a reed type and the instrument type is a bottle, but you can choose from which one you want. So if we made it to a sax, sounds more like a sax. And then you've got like pressure, so the pressure on the saxophone, the embouchure, is affected by envelope 1, and the reed is affected by envelope 1 as well. And then we've got sort of mixing on there and the envelopes. So the idea being that you can recreate those instruments but have some control over it, because it had that down here you can see it's not just got a pitch wheel, it's got a bender, it's got this kind of wheel on it on here to give you some control over it. And you can map those for your MIDI controller as well. So I can see a reed, and then we're choosing flute. If I go to a bell type sound, that's using the pluck model. So different UI when you come to the pluck model, because it's a different way of interacting. We've got some cut off, we've got the string position where it's plucking on envelopes. Go to a guitar, that's probably using plucked as well. So this is acoustic guitar. don't think it's that dissimilar from the MOS boards modelling technology that's got in the Korg Karma. So the guitar sounds quite nice. That's in mono mode. So this is another guitar, but this is using the cone filter. Again in mono. Oh, like that. I just left the sustain pedal down to get that. So as well as it doing those modelling, it does analog synth modelling. So if we go into a nice synth sound, here's another model of the Korg 700S, the mini Korg that we demonstrated earlier in the video and on the Triton video, or Triton section. So here you can see this is using the standard model, which is the virtual analog, and we've got sawtooth, pulse, or ramp, a triangle, and then we've got two of those, and we've got some wave shaping, and then we've got the route into the mixer, and we've got the low pass filter there, and resonance. So we've got some wave shaping we can do down here, and yeah, we've got two. You can mix and match those, so we could have one oscillator with the analog modelling and another one doing a bit of FM. So here's one that's using VPM, so we've got a carrier and a modulator, so you've not just got sine waves that you had on FM on the DX7, you've got the different waveforms that you can do for the carrier and modulation, and you can control that. And then you can apply envelope shaping to that as well, to produce some nice complex sounds from it, especially if you apply them you stack them up with two oscillators doing that. And then we've got some effects that we can apply to that, and there's an arpeggiator as well. So here's one that's using analog modelling with resonance, and we could stick an arpeggiator on. So here we are in the global settings. I think I should be able to, yeah, there we go, I can MIDI learn. So I've just done the MIDI learn and assigned those. So now these performance controls are controlled by the mod wave, so you can use it for control it from that as well. So you can assign these. So I must admit, it's a synth I've not played very much with. I tend not to use it that much, but it is very nice, and the modelling is a great. I remember being very excited when they first sort of announced this stuff, this modelling technology, but it's never really come to much, has it? But I think there are some big fans for the Prophecy and the Z1 as well. So it's nice to have that included, and I must admit I need to spend a bit more time and learn a bit more about it. So that's the Prophecy. Now the final thing I wanted to show you is the Kaoss Pad. This is a bit more tricky to show you with my current setup, but let's go and try. Okay, so the final thing I want to show you, if there's a bit of noise, it's because of the way I've wired up this to capture it, and I've got my Korg MIDI plugged in. So if I play some MIDI from the MIDI log, and then this is the Kaoss Pad with the X and Y control on it, so I can use my finger on the mouse, and you can hear the effects. So it's kind of like a DJing, the idea of DJing type tool, but you can use it as an insert effect in the DAW and apply it through like that. And you can actually use a MIDI keyboard. And there's tons of effects you can choose from. So you just control it through the pad like that. And you can go a bit deeper into it, so you've got these controls here. You can see the LFOs that are running, and then you can actually adjust those. So if I pick another one, let's hold that. There you can see you can choose all these different effects. There we go. Bit of phasing on there. And I can control it through. So pretty interesting stuff. And actually, and I said this was the final one, I have missed off one which is quite an important one, and that is the microKorg. So the final synth I want to show you is the microKorg, best-selling synth of all time apparently. It came out in 2002, and the engine is actually based on the MS2000 virtual analog, which MS2000 behind me there. Korg have just recently announced a new generation of the microKorg, but up until now, 2024, they are still selling these microKorgs, and in fact they have different versions and different cases and that kind of thing, and this has different skins in it as well, so you can choose different look and feels to the instrument. So for voice or for polyphony, so it's polyphonic 4-voice, or you can put it into dual layer mode with 2-voice. It's proper virtual analog. The difference between this and say the MS2000 is the UI. You've got this rotary control where you can select your class of sounds, so go to retro, and then you can choose them from here. And I'm very familiar with these sounds because these are on the MS2000, many of them. So you've got brass synth sounds, and you've got lead sounds, bass sounds. But it's actually a fairly simple to understand synth. If you're on one layer, you've got, and I think we can go to a, if you can see on here on mine, I've actually imported some MS2000 sounds, and they've worked really well. So it's pretty simple actually. You've got oscillator 1, oscillator 2. So oscillator 1 here is on a square wave, and you can control that, so that's controlling the pulse width. I can't remember what this one does. That's the pulse width modulation. So if you on a triangle wave, it controls the shape, and that's probably the LFO of that shape as well. So to choose from, you've got sawtooth, square, triangle, sine wave, Vox, and DWGS, which is the digital waves from the DW8000 range, and actually some really nice digital waveforms on that. You get some nice digital sounds coming from that because they're quite complex, these waves. But as well as that, you've also got noise, and like I said, you've got the standard synth. There's also audio in as well, so you can filter an existing synth, so it should be able to process my Minilog through the filters on here, which we can check out later. But yeah, so oscillator 1 has got that. Oscillator 2 has got just the 3 waveforms, but you can do syncing, ring modulation, and ring syncing as well. So you can get some, those sort of sync type sounds. So if we've got sawtooth on there, sawtooth on here, we can sync those. And if we change it, you can hear that sync effect on there. Then we've got a mixer with noise as well, filters, a 24 pole and a 12 volt 12 pole low pass, band pass and a high pass with resonance, and you can get some resonance out of this quite easily. Probably put it on the low pass. So you've got resonance and you've got distortion, which adds a bit of nice effect to the sound. Let's add a bit of distortion. So the analog distortion. Then you've got two LFOs, and then you've got this virtual patch, so you can say LFO1 there is going to oscillator 2 tune. I'm going to change that to the, I can probably change it to, yeah, let's leave it on tune, but let's put it, increment it right up so we can hear it. There you can hear it, so it's doing that sync effect through that modulation with the distortion on it as well. That distortion level we could control by, say, we could send that to, so here we could have LFO2 controlling that amp level. LFO2 is sample and hold. Let's change it to square. And then we've got two effects. We've got a phaser, ensemble, and flanger chorus, and a delay effect, no reverb on here, and some EQ as well. And you can then, you've got an arpeggiator. It lacks a motion sequencer of the MS2000, which is a shame, but that's it. That's a nice feature. And then you've got some of the portamento, and you've got some unison detune modes, and so you can have it in multi or single mode. And it can be a vocoder as well, so you can use the audio input as a vocoder. So I'm just holding down an E note on here, but on the Minilogue, I'll play a little sequence. So there you can hear the vocoder coming through. So you can also use this to process internal sounds as well. There are tons of presets available for you to choose from on here. Loads of different kind of sounds. Nice 70s sounds. I think we should be able to map some of these as well. Yep, we can learn that. So I'll go cut off with a mod wave, and let's control that resonance as well from here. Sorry. So that's the microKorg, a pretty powerful synth, 4 voice limitation, same as the MS2000, but yeah, it's great for sort of analog modeling type sounds, virtual analog type sounds. And if you've got a DAW and you've got this collection, they all fit in and give you different things. So you've got the real old synths like the MS2000. So that's the Korg Collection. Is it still worth it? Well, yeah, I definitely think so, because all the different elements have different, bring different things to the party. So you've got like the microKorg, which is the one we just like sort of virtual analog type stuff. We've got the Electribe for a bit of groovebox type thing. And then we've got the microKorg for a 70s sound, the MS27 sound, 80s sounds from the Poly 6 and the Monopoly. Late 80s, early 90s with the M1 and the Wave Station. The Wave Station's one of my favourite. And then you've got the Triton as well, and even the Prophecy, which is a bit different, and the Odyssey, of course, which are all classics. You can buy them separately, and but it's cheaper to buy that as a whole bundle, which you can get from Korg. The maximum I've seen is $400, but usually it's on sale around $200. The demo version, so you can just give them a try. You'll notice a couple of things on here. These are other synths not including the collection. So the ModWave native on there, the Op6 native, and the WaveState native. I haven't got that one, but yeah, they're not included. The MDX is that plugin that I was telling you about that you can just use it in your DAW. So that's a look at the Korg Collection. It used to be called Korg Legacy Collection, now called Korg Collection. I really find use for it all the time, especially I love the Wave Station and the Poly 6, but also the Odyssey as well. It's a great synth as well. So get the demo, have a play with it, and see what you think. So thanks so much for this video. Give it a try, and I'll see you on the next one.